What is the blockchain? What is a blockchain? A blockchain is a tamper-proof encrypted database secured by cryptography, which is the study of encryption, that acts as an accounting ledger keeping track of digital assets. Instead of being maintained by a single server like traditional databases, blockchains are decentralized and maintained by a distributed network of computers around the world. This database tracks every Bitcoin in the network and each transaction since the very first Bitcoin. You could think of Bitcoin as an accounting system. Through the blockchain, it is a way of recording transactions and value digitally in an open and distributed self-clearing ledger. Beginners to cryptocurrency sometimes hear the word blockchain and think that the term blockchain is synonymous with Bitcoin. However, this would be like saying that smartphone technology and Apple have the same meaning. The relationship between Bitcoin and blockchain is like the relationship between Facebook and the internet. Bitcoin is based on blockchain technology and could not exist without blockchain technology. Blockchain technology preceded Bitcoin, and blockchain technology could exist without Bitcoin. Just like Facebook is on the internet, Bitcoin is on the blockchain. Facebook cannot work without the internet. Bitcoin couldn't work without its blockchain. Let's get a visual image in your minds. So picture this. There is a digital block that's created on the internet. Inside that block is data. For cryptocurrencies, text data of a list of transactions is inside of each block. For NFTs, text data detailing ownership of digital assets is inside of each block. Every time a new block is created, it is linked, chained together, back to the previous block. So you have a series of blocks full of data, all chained together to each other. Another way to visualize it is like this. Picture each block as a page in a book. The data inside each block are the words on the page, and the chain is the book's spine that holds all of the pages together. There are various different cryptocurrencies, each with its own blockchain. For the blockchains of cryptocurrencies, the data inside each block is a detailed record of transactions involving that specific cryptocurrency. Basically, each block is one page in a digital ledger. How are new blocks added to the chain? In order to add a new block to a chain, a complex math equation must be solved. For Bitcoin's blockchain, basically somebody needs to guess a number between 1 and 4 billion in order to add a block to the blockchain. This requires a vast amount of computing power as well as some time, roughly 10 minutes per block, on Bitcoin's blockchain. The individual or group who guesses the correct number creates the new block and is awarded 6.25 Bitcoin. This process is called mining. But really, it should be called something like creating a new block by guessing the correct number. The fact that it is so difficult to add a new block makes it so that no one organization can ever add too many blocks in a row. It would be like the same person winning the lottery over and over again. The fact that blocks are so difficult to create is also the reason why they are so tamper-proof and immutable. So now we know that a blockchain is, how blocks are created, and what each block is filled with, a digital ledger of transactions. To understand the significance of blockchain technology, we must go back in time and look at the ledgers and their function. A ledger is simply a documented record of transactions. A blockchain is a ledger. A blockchain is a documented record of transactions. Since the dawn of civilization, people have been trading things with one another. Humanity wouldn't exist if it weren't for the fact that humans trade with one another. Even before the invention of currency, Tribes and early civilizations would often keep a record of who traded what with who, dating as far back as 5000 BC in Mesopotamia. People used clay tablets as primitive ledgers to record transactions of crops and animals. Ledgers such as these would also be used to keep track of debts owed, so it was important that we were kept in a safe place to avoid tampering or damage. Ledgers were kept safe inside of guarded temples and palaces, the seeds of the very first banks. Later, banks took over the role of calculating and maintaining ledgers. They kept track of transactions as well as debts owed and kept these ledgers safe. Except at this point, people were using currency and no longer bartering with crops, animals, and other goods. The introduction of modern banking. For centuries, people have trusted banks to keep and maintain ledgers, which is records that people agree with the information in the bank's ledgers and trust that that information is safe from tampering or damage. Because everyone agrees with the information in a bank's records, banks are often used as an intermediary for transactions between two parties. When you swipe your debit card at the grocery store and the point of sale terminal states that the transaction has gone through, the grocery store trusts that you've paid. The grocery store trusts your bank's records. Both parties involved in a transaction trust that the records of the bank are accurate. If the bank says the transfer has successfully been completed, then the buyer and the seller can both trust and agree that the money has in fact gone through. The pros and cons of using banks and their ledgers. Banks add a level of trust and security to transactions. This is why banks have been around for hundreds of years. The downside to this is that banks and their governments have the power to monitor and control people's money as well as put their hands in people's pockets with fees, especially when transferring money international and or converting fiat currencies. So the issue is for centuries, we have been trusting banks to keep records, ledgers of who owns and owes what. But at the same time, we've been sacrificing some of our privacy, independence, and percentages of our wealth in fees. It is time to drain the financial swamp. But what if there was a better way? What if there was some form of modern technology that could help us get the best of both worlds? What if we could have security and trust while at the same time also have a financial privacy and autonomy? We would need a secure ledger that everyone could trust and agree on, and that wasn't able to be controlled, interfered with, or manipulated by any person or institution. Enter blockchain technology. How are blockchains different from the banks? Blockchains are distributed and publicly accessible. A blockchain is a digital ledger, but it is a ledger that everybody has access to, yet nobody can tamper with or control. Historically, ledgers and records have been centralized, locked up, and stored by one institution that has access and control. For cryptocurrencies, the entire ledger is out in the open and accessible to everybody. Blockchains are anonymous. When you look at the Bitcoin blockchain, you will notice that you don't see the names, email addresses, or any information about the sender and receiver. All you see are transaction hashes and wallet addresses. It is almost impossible to determine someone's identity based on these strings of random letters and numbers. This is the paradox of Bitcoin. Everybody can see all of the transactions, but nobody can see who is doing the transactions. Blockchains are decentralized. For almost every major cryptocurrency, nobody owns or controls the ledger, the blockchain. The blockchain is available for anyone in the world to see, no matter where they are. Having a decentralized ledger, plus the inherent security of a blockchain, eliminates the need for an institution, bank, or government to be the middleman. Having a transparent distributed ledger means that cryptocurrency is open to everybody on the planet. An entire 31% of adults in the world do not have access to a bank account. But if they access to an internet connection, then they can have access to cryptocurrencies. Blockchain blocks require majority agreement to be valid. What makes a blockchain so secure is the fact that it is distributed. There are multiple live versions of each blockchain. If somebody is able to tamper with even one block on his live version of the blockchain, then everyone else will instantly see that it doesn't match up with the other live versions and it will be discarded. As long as more than 50% of the live blockchain versions and the nodes agree on something, the versions that are different are identified as false and ignored. This all happens very quickly. What makes a blockchain secure is also that blockchain blocks are essentially immutable. Every 10 minutes, a new block is created on the Bitcoin blockchain. This block is filled with data of recent Bitcoin transactions. The data in the block shows a list of wallet addresses that have sent Bitcoin to other wallet addresses, as well as the amount of Bitcoin sent. Once the block has been mined and the data is written inside, the block is closed and becomes added to the end of the blockchain. At that point, it is almost impossible to edit, modify, or remove. It's like writing in wet cement. And once the cement hardens, the information written will be there forever. The block is basically immutable. Is it possible to hack the blockchain? If one individual or organization were able to gain control of 51% of computing power of a blockchain, then they would be able to double spend their coins. This means they can spend their coins, then delete that transaction and spend the coins again. To mount a successful 51% attack on a large cryptocurrency such as Bitcoin would require an astronomical amount of computing power, costing billions or tens of billions of dollars. There are estimated to be over 1 million Bitcoin miners in the world today. Somebody would need to generate the computing power of over 1 million other miners to be able to temporarily tamper with the creation of the current block. A 51% attack on Bitcoin would be outlandishly expensive. Because blockchain technology is by nature secure, anonymous, immutable, and decentralized, it is being eyed for other applications beyond only cryptocurrency. Using a blockchain to cast votes in an election. How about using a blockchain to keep track of medical data? Using a blockchain to keep track of the supply chain of food or other products. Using a blockchain to store authentic pieces of digital art, NFTs. Using a blockchain to store personal identification information. Using a blockchain to store important deeds, such as for land or a home. Now, as a disclaimer, this information is intended for educational and training purposes only and should not be construed as investment advice. As with all financial decisions, you should contact your licensed financial advisor before investing in any financial instrument.